Norsca versus Ogres has always fascinated me, mostly because Norsca has really good anti-large tools. Their theming is kind of a monster hunter faction, right? With very good monsters of their own, given that Ogres consist largely of unarmored monsters. Let's see how this matchup develops. I've got this one from Boojlicious versus Golden Floof, two of the greatest names in the community facing off here. We've got Throg leading the charge for Norsca, some Marauder Spears up front, and some regular Marauders, and then the best, or at least one of the best anti-large range units in the game, Marauder Javelins, of course, going to be very good against all of the unarmored Ogre units, even some of the armored ones as well, especially with Plague of Rust from a Metal Caster here. Just kidding, it's Glimmering Robe only, and Final Transmutation, which definitely can be fairly solid. I like the pick of Glimmering Robe, especially to put on like Throg, since his armor is not the best, or on these Skin Wolves, we do have some Mods of Savagery here, the Regiment of Renown, regular Skin Wolves, and Ice Wolves on this flank, Beasts of Tashnar, Warhounds, and Armored Skin Wolves on the far flank. For the Ogres, Tyrant going to be leading the way, Firebelly here, decent choice. Lore of Fire is generally very good against Norsca. Flaming Sword of Ruin will enable flaming attacks and give you a nice Kindle Flame proc as well, so I love to see that. Maneater's Great Weapons are fairly risky here. That low armor does mean they're very vulnerable to javelins, but we'll see how it develops. We got some lead belchers already opening up to the Snowhorn of Morn, the terror of all time, and some Nobblars up front with regular bulls, trappers on the flanks. Oop, let's get things started, and a mild fast forward to regular speed now as these two armies approach. Beasts of Tashnar getting shelled. They're in a Dread Column formation, though, so the shots actually are only going to be hitting a couple of doggos at a time, which is pretty advantageous to Norsca. Definitely not intentional, I wouldn't think, but still, sometimes that Dread Column formation can actually benefit you. The loose formation of the Javelin Hunters does help them to a degree, but they're still going to take some damage, obviously, from that big frontline engagement getting underway. They have a really high arc of fire. Wow, that's a straight-up mortar shot for a Javelin, pretty much going up and over their own Marauder Spears here. Doing some nice damage initially. Actually, surprisingly little on those Ogre Bulls. That seems to be fairly ineffective volleys. This one, though, taking a lot more efficient damage as they're firing straight on. Snowhorn, of course, coming in for big terror rout. Oh yeah, gonna see some Burning Head in the back line. Again, the Marauder Javs loose formation helps to a degree, but just generally getting hit by lots of stuff all at the same time. Overcast Burning Head as well, it looks like, judging by the damage. Hits a couple of units, leads to mass terror routes in the back line, so already Javelins have taken some serious damage, mostly been shut down. We've still got one unit online on the far side, but the Dread Columns of Dogs are attacking on the flanks here. We've got Mods of Savagery, Skin Wolves also getting in here. Norscan Ice Wolves are going to get in and start to mix it up with those Lead Belchers. The one thing about the Dread Column is it does somewhat nerf your charge. The rest of the models will get in there and still get in contact eventually, but yeah, we'll be a bit vulnerable in the meantime. Maneaters in the back line just sweeping, protecting against these Norscan Ice Wolves are going to do more than enough damage to rout them off. Apologies about that. Phone's going off in the background. Yeah, the Skin Wolves, though, are fast enough to continue to pressure. They've got nice anti-large damage overall. Let's see, what is that? Yeah, plus 30 bonus versus large, putting them at 96 weapon strength. 24 unit models as well is higher than the standard monstrous infantry. They can compete with, like, Ogre Bulls on unit models. Taking an overall look at the battlefield here, the Norskins have taken some leadership damage, but as the Ogres start to get pulled apart a little bit here and their units get isolated, they're going to face significantly more unfavorable circumstances. The Ogre's strength here was definitely fighting together with support, with Nobblars and Bulls fighting together, you know, keeping the Lead Belchers protected, but now that Norsca's managed to kind of open up the can a little bit here, the Skin Wolves also give you a degree of survivability. I mean, certainly their regeneration helps. The armor also, the armored variant obviously helps. A lot of people don't realize, but only the Mods of Savagery actually have armor piercing damage, which is going to help against something like the Snowhorn, which is still running rampant across the battlefield, terrifying away various Marauders. But look at this, Marauder Hunter Javelins actually winning out against Bulls in the back there. Nope, just kidding, they rout. Let's get in close, though. Haven't really highlighted Throg too much, but he's just been quietly smashing up Ogres all over the field. That Frostbite anti-large means that once he catches an Ogre, like even this Firebelly here, down to 38 speed, very unlikely to be able to get away. Throg, though, does get hit by the Noblar traps. Yeah, something a lot of people don't think about too much, but this Noblar traps here from the trappers does give a one-time small damage and speed debuff, which looks like did hit Throg there, but not really too impactful as he was already in the blob anyway. More than enough mass as well with these Maws of Savagery here to keep them locked in. Make that Firebelly's day just very sad. The Tyrant as well is at severe risk here. Looks like the Man-Eaters are helping to defend. Definitely an elite status there with their high stats. And if we take a look here, yeah, 43 melee defense is pretty decent, but still, I mean, Skin Wolves with the Frenzy and with the Anti-Large up to 70 melee attack. More than enough to get through the melee defense of those Man-Eaters. Going to be a super cost-effective trade for them. Yeah, Flaming Sword of Ruin, though, does kind of turn that around as they get a nice flaming damage boost. Not smart of the Norscan player here, Bujulish, just to pull away with his Skin Wolves once he sees that effect pop up. Maybe try and chase off this Firebelly. Would be a very clutch play. Make sure the Ogres can't get any more magic back. Nice Final Chance Mutation as well from Norsca here. Hits a whole bunch of units at the same time. Especially the Man-Eaters are probably the most important, but Ogres, army ability-wise, unfortunately I can't really see what's going on. No, like in terms of heals, I would imagine, given the Firebelly status, looks like he might have got healed a little bit. I'm not really sure exactly what the army abilities have been used on so far. But Norsca taking a distinct mobility advantage now. The dogs and the Skin Wolves working together does confer quite a bit of powerful mobility to go after isolated units. We're definitely going to have to abandon ship in the center right now. The Snowhorn, if we take a look at its speed, speed is 66. Of course, that's without the effect of Vigor applied. But it doesn't really want to get ahead of these Noblars anyway. Like, very much needs to stay with the Tyrant and the Noblars and the Man-Eaters and just kind of operate in a Doom Blob as much as possible. That does give Norsca free reign, though, more or less. So we're going to fast forward a little bit through this cleanup phase as Norscan Skin Wolves, Ice Wolves, other units reach out across the battlefield and deal damage to various targets. But it's going to be tight in the late game still. Obviously, all the Norscan Skin Wolves and such are regenerating this whole time, as is Throg. As this kind of pursuit phase goes on, you can see here that the Man-Eaters get caught out on the Ice Wolves away from Throg and the Snowhorn. It's a decent sacrifice by the Ice Wolves. Obviously, they're not going to win that fight, but does afford Throg at least a moment to try and focus on the Snowhorn. Unfortunately, Tyrant now comes in as well as some Noblars. Ice Wolves are going to come in and try and get rid of the Noblars, or the Skin Wolves, rather, so that Throg can get an isolation on the Tyrant. That'd be a great way of dealing with the leadership of the Ogres, try and rout off the Snowhorn, but let's see. Get in some cinematic action. Man, I don't know what just knocked over Throg right there, but he's going to do some MLG, ground turning. I can't even imagine the core muscles necessary to pull off something like that. I think he literally has a mouth in his belly, though, so maybe it just, grabbed the ground and twisted him. Who knows? Let's not think too hard about that, because it's incredibly disturbing. Just look at the overall picture here. More terror routes from the Snowhorn as the Maws of Savagery go to clean up Noblar trappers. Regeneration of Norsca is going to come in so clutch. Getting rid of that Firebelly was also super important so that they couldn't continue to get those Flaming Swords of Ruin, other effects to try and counteract that regeneration trait. But as it is right now, things are looking fairly solid. And oh, look at that. A handful more Javelins come back. This will go on for some time, though. I mean, certainly Man-Eaters, if they're able to get an isolation on Throg, like if the Skin Wolves all get terrified and routed away, Maws of Savagery there take a beating, and it looks like they might be done for. We'll see. It's going to be a dangerous situation. Certainly still within reach of the Ogres, and I believe Golden Floof is the Ogre player here. It's been doing a great job just staying tight, with the Tyrant and the Snowhorn. Hasn't really been caught out too many times in unrecoverable ways, but here the Man-Eaters do get isolated. Skin Wolves are just having a hard time with their leadership. That fight or die comes in a little bit late to try and keep them from routing in the first place. And all of a sudden, again, it's Throg versus the world. Can he actually finish off the Man-Eaters? It looks like they rout. We're getting some more Skin Wolves back over here. Mazda Savagery could come in and get a nice rear charge on the Snowhorn, but the Trappers are guarding. Their ranged attack should be enough to break the leadership of the Mazda Savagery. We'll see. Perhaps not. But Throg, once again, Snowhorn gets a couple of hits on the Shaman Sorcerer, focuses him down, but that affords Throg the opportunity to perhaps fight the Tyrant. We'll see. Snacks is going to continue to heal the Tyrant as well, but not quite at the same reliable rate because it does require him to be in melee. Regeneration is 0.1 hit points per second. We see a nice Final Chance Mutation come in from the rallied dude there. Yeah, see, this is, like, currently he doesn't count as in melee. It's the same healing rate, too, so now finally he is in melee, going to be getting that healing. It's just a lot less reliable. You can see the difference in healing cap space between these two, sort of showcasing that. But Throg definitely in danger, still fighting 2v1 plus the Gnoblars. Not a great situation, so here we go. Final charge of the Skinwolves. Mazda Savagery definitely should close right at this time as well and just leave the Marauders to chase off those Trappers, but looks like they are going to go after Tyrant again. Since these two get separated, Throg, getting ping-ponged off the ground. Did he just bounce off of a Man-Eater's body? That would just happen there? Who knows? Anyway, he's fine, though. He's going to continue to regenerate, deal damage, and tank out some damage while this Shaman Sorcerer gets it on the chin, and the Tyrant gets routed by the massive Skinwolves surrounding and beating him down. Mazda Savagery armor-piercing damage comes in huge handy, and there it is. Going to be army losses for the Ogres. So a very tight game for sure. Boojilicious barely pulling out the win, but it's a fun one, definitely. I do feel that Norsca, while they suffered on that initial rush, being able to weather the storm of Ogres, you know, kind of absorb the impact of that initial charge, and then, you know, kind of start to pick apart the units as they get isolated, definitely worked out fairly well. And it's interesting, you know, you would think that Norsca's, with their anti-large traits against the Ogres, they would be like a shoe-in for automatic victory, but, you know, the Ogres actually are fairly potent in what they can do to kind of get around that. Certainly in this matchup, given that you lack artillery, you know, to a degree, I like the pick of the Lead Belchers. They are a bit expensive, and Norsca's mobility is going to make them tough to protect, so maybe it would be better to go with one of the artillery chariots so that you can maybe try and keep it online for longer. But certainly the Snowhorn, the missile resistance and very heavy armor makes it a great choice to try and absorb javelins and just, you know, give a nice all-in rush, you know, help these Ogres crump the front line, terrify away some Marauders, and then immediately get back and get into those javelins, which is more or less what happened. But then again, overextending a little bit, and then all the Skinwolves, man, almost 3,000 value on a regular Skinwolf. Fantastic. Mazda Savagery also paid for themselves. The Wolves, Ice Wolves, and Beasts of Tashnar and so forth don't necessarily pay for themselves, but tactically just helping to chase stuff off and around. Certainly very useful. And yeah, none of the Javelins pay for themselves either, but they end up kind of being a little bit bait. I like Golden Floof's build quite a bit. Again, the only thing I might change is maybe to swap the Lead Belchers out for, like, Scrap Launchers. They're going to be decent against the unarmored infantry of Norsca, and they're a bit cheaper. They're a single entity, so you're not going to lose stopping power as they lose HP. They're also chariots, so they can kind of run over infantry and screen through them and run away. Less vulnerable to hounds, definitely, as well, given the armor. But it's an interesting one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about this matchup. It's certainly one that I initially had thought was going to be heavily against the Ogres, but they actually have a pretty good chance at very powerful tools to help them out here. But let me know what you think. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.